Hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts like the chart behind me, which is of AMC Entertainment, ticker symbol AMC. And so here I am recording this on Friday, December 20th, after the market has closed, and AMC closed at a price of $4.18, being up 2.2% on the day and closing the after hours session at our favorite number, 420. So, I think it's actually, pretty good. I'm surprised with how we closed the week at. We could have closed it below $4 a share. But yeah, I just wanted to dive into the chart really quickly and just go over some things that stood out to me from really the past couple weeks. And before I clutter the chart with a bunch of lines, I just wanted to go over something that stood out to me that I think is really just kind of like a superstition with the number seven. And, it doesn't mean that you have to be superstitious or that I am superstitious. If people are superstitious, then some of these things tend to happen. And that thing that I'm talking about is a seven count, where we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 red candle days before putting in a bottom with this nice wick to the downside, hitting a low on Monday of $3.93. And, so whenever there is a stock that is, let's say going down 4 red days in a row, it's quite possible you might get 3 more red days before establishing a bottom. Potentially, we're putting in a bear flag here, so it could possibly go lower. I do think that we will be bouncing, but I do think that we could be going down to maybe around $3.50. I've talked about that level before, not being a precise level or anything, but just, thinking we might get into the threes and not just a wick down. So I do think it is good to prepare for that downside, or at least have a plan for it if it does happen. Don't be surprised by it if it does happen. But ideally, this is the bottom. And and so prior to putting in these 7 red candles coming down, let's see, in that series, those are all of my lines there, coming from the open on, let's see, this was December 6th to the close on the 16th, that was coming down just about 16%. And so I mean, recognizing that, hey, there are a bunch of red candles, doesn't really seem like there's a bottom in, because maybe this candle on the day of December 10th, maybe one might think, hey, there's a big wick to the downside, maybe that looks like a bottom. But then the following day on the 11th, red closing lower. So, clearly that is not a bottom after that third day. So maybe give it 3 more days to form a bottom, and that is so far what we have seen. And also with this big green candle here on the 5th, that is, I believe, when we got the announcement of the dilution, hit a high of $5.56. I do have some thoughts about that I feel like are pretty discouraging. I'm sure that we all kind of share a similar sentiment about that. And really, I mean, if we compare the AMC and the GameStop charts, right around here, AMC, of course, trading here around this orange line that was resistance. We then got a pullback coming down to, basically a full retracement coming to the lows here from October 10th. That was at a low of $4.03. As I had mentioned last week, the possibility of sweeping those lows, we did that, going lower than 403. If anybody had a stop loss there, they were pushed out of their position, and then, others were able to pick up those shares by the dip. But, it was also brought up in the comments that unlikely that there's stop losses there. I feel like retail, probably less likely to do that, but maybe bigger institutes, bigger players maybe saw this as a, hey, I'll have a stop loss there, reassess if we sweep it. We swept it and, have consolidated above it there. But then coming back to that thought about GameStop, so right around here, at that orange level, if I do pull up the GameStop chart here really quick on, let's see, the 5th was, let's see, this green day, I believe. So we were trading around this, kind of arbitrary, maybe, orange line that I had drawn here. And there was a little bit of a pullback with GameStop, but really it just kind of consolidated below that uptrend. Whereas if we look at AMC again, we had this great massive pullback. And so, I feel like that, of course, AMC needs to have cash. We need to be doing that. But I just think that this was done at such a bad time because, yes, it's good to be doing that when the stock price is up. But I feel like it was at kind of a technical near breakout level. And we just got pulled back kind of like to square one. We've got taken back, more than 2 months back in time to when we were at these lows in October 10th. So, I feel like that is pretty discouraging, I must say. But it is what it is, and we've gotten some great opportunities. I don't know if you guys picked up any shares below $4 a share. For me, I'm not too aggressive, but I did make a point to pick up some shares below $4. And so I'm happy about that, but also, I don't want to be too aggressive in case we do go to 350 or, into deep into the threes. I want to be able to really accumulate heavy when we're down there. If we're hanging out around 4, I can just very patiently add a little bit here and there. So, nothing too crazy. And then, some other levels that I had talked about in prior videos, $4.10, that I believe was the low from, let's see, what date was this? I believe May 31st. May 31st, memory serves me well. You can't see it because it's right behind Ed, but I'll get him out of the way so you can see the cursor there, that low from May 31st. So pretty cool there. I've covered this enough times. I remember that. And so that low was $4.10. We closed the week above it. So, I think that is great. And unfortunately, though, we are below this yellow line that I had drawn, which is $4.24. So it would be great to reclaim that level. Otherwise, I do think that this could be a little bit of a bear flag, but kind of contrary to that, these big wicks that we've seen to the downside do suggest to me that buyers have been stepping in below $4 a share. We see that $3.99 discount, jump on that, and so I think that we have been able to keep it above that. But, if we look at this purple level here, it's a downtrend that has acted as pretty notable resistance over here. It's quite possible it could be acting as support, but of course that is a downtrend. So if it is acting as support, that does mean that we are fading. So that would not be very good. But, if that is not to be the case, if we are to get a bounce, I would look for us to, not only reclaim $4.24, but really getting back up to like $4.41. That was, as I've mentioned multiple times in the past, this 786 from this retracement going from the all-time low hit on April 16th, which was at $2.38, going up to the high of $11.88 during market hours, hit on May 14th. Got that 786 there at $4.41. White line here. Great to reclaim that. Also get back above 450, the red line here, or 469. That had acted as a little bit of resistance over here, as well as over here generally with some wicks going above it. Would be great to be seeing a bounce up to there. And if we do see that, we might be finding this white uptrend as resistance based on these two pivot points here. But that also might just be, a hand wavy doodle that I put up there. So take it with a grain of salt. I do think that if we are able to get some momentum, move up to around this orange line, that would be like right around $5 a share. or maybe 510, I think that we might be seeing some notable resistance there because we did have this top here. We did have this consolidation over here below that level, so it might be tough to get above. But if we look at some of the data down here, like looking at the MACD, we can see that it has been red, it has been negative, and that has coincided with this pretty nice pullback that we've seen. But one thing that is somewhat encouraging about this is it does look like the MACD, that orange line there, is starting to flatten out. Maybe it's starting to curve up. And so maybe we could start to see a bottom here with a bounce, maybe getting back up to that 450 or 469 level. Also, looking at the RSI, does look like it's kind of flattened out. Currently, closing the week for the day, the RSI is at 42.26, so maybe we start to see that move higher. It does look like on this pullback, when we hit the low of 393, we saw a low on the 16th of 35.65 in that RSI, so nearly getting into that oversold territory, but not quite there. So it is quite possible we could see a dip, maybe see this MACD give like a secondary bottom there and a dip with the RSI to around 30. But we may also have the bottom formed there, and this might turn around. But like I said, I do think it is good to have a plan for if we do get into the threes, not just dip into them, but actually reside in them for a little while before forming a bottom, or maybe we get a wick down to around 350. Just throwing that number out there because it's between 4 and 3. And maybe we get a quick wick down to that level. So maybe that's a good limit buy order level, just throwing it out there. Who knows? That's not necessarily what my plan is. I don't have any limit buy orders placed, but it is kind of nice to sometimes just set it and forget it. And if there is a quick wick down, good to not miss those. But it could, be heading lower than 350 as there is this gap here at 291. But as I have said multiple times before, I think that this gap is not going to get filled. I think that anyone who is waiting for it will be getting left behind, as I do think we will be filling this gap up here at 685 before the one at 291, which I don't think will be getting filled. So anybody waiting for that will be getting left behind. Once we fill this gap up here, they'll realize they're getting left behind, and then they will FOMO in, and that will launch the stock price higher to, maybe 1188 again. I've got this level here at 1143, that red line there, which was this prior high. And that was actually a great predictor for this kind of blow off top that we saw. And I've also gotten some comments from some people that I feel like are a little bit underwater with this stock and, are looking for a breath of air. And so, since we have been forming higher lows, believe it or not, relative to this all-time low, of course, we're higher than that. I think that if we do get another big move to the upside, I actually think 12, maybe down to around $10 a share, could be acting as support following the pullback, just like this range here has been where we consolidated. I think that we could be consolidating in this range, after the next leg up. And that next leg up, I think, could be taking us to around $20. Here I have this gap marked at $19.60, which was the closing price on August 23rd. But it's possible that we don't get all the way up there. So I do have this level marked here at 1660. That was the high following that gap down on August 24th of 2023. So it's possible that that will, act as resistance. So I feel like if we do get a big move up, personally, you do you, but for me personally, I don't think that we're going to get up to, $1,000 a share or anything like that. I think that what's going to happen with AMC is it's going to be maybe longer term, maybe 1 year cycles of it going up like this, pulling back, consolidating, boring people out of their positions, frustrating them out of their positions before the next leg up. And so whenever that next leg up does happen, I think the blow off top level will be between around $16.60 up to around $28, then a pullback to around 12 to 10. And so, I think that this range could be a nice one to trim. I do think that it's a bad one to just, in my view, from my prior experience, I think it's a bad one to just sell because then you end up FOMOing higher if it goes higher. But so, I think that this is a nice area to maybe think about lowering the risk, taking a little bit back off the table, maybe with the idea of buying back down here at support around, $10 to $12 a share, or, just sitting a little bit more comfy if that does happen, a big move up and then a pullback. So I think that is something to consider. But yeah, I mean, with all of that being said, I have to say that I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, we saw this big move down on Monday, hitting this low of 393. We started to bounce from that. We got this bearish engulfing candle. Unfortunately, on Wednesday, that was the day of the FOMC, the Fed meeting when Jerome Powell was speaking. And we saw a pretty big dump across the market. But AMC didn't put in a new low. It didn't go lower than 393. So I was impressed by that. I was surprised by it. I felt good about it. So I think that there is a lot to, think about with this. One being that we still have more opportunities to get more shares below $5 a share. Also, though, with the possibility of us getting into the threes, I think that would be, of course, even cheaper shares. So I think that's even better than what we're looking at right now. But I also think that this could start to rally into the end of the year, the new year, who knows? And maybe that's just getting up to around, $5 a share, reclaiming that level. But if that does happen, then, we're looking at, putting in higher lows once again. Bigger picture, we are doing that, but smaller picture, shorter term. We did break lower here, but I think that might just be kind of, a psychological game to spook people out of their positions because it is, a little bit bearish that we're putting in lower lows, but we didn't close below this low. That low, or, the lowest close that we saw over here was on October 9th, and that was at a price of $4.16. What was the lowest close that we saw over here on December 16th? The lowest close that we saw was 406. So, it is lower than that level. Let's see, the lowest close over here. No, actually, sorry. The lowest close was 407. So we did go a little bit lower than that, but the lows over here, like that I have marked here, $4.03, we didn't close below that level. So, I think that this looks pretty good. I feel pretty good about this. I feel pretty confident in it. But also, like I said, I'm prepared for getting into the threes. But like I said, I don't have any limit buys placed there for 350 or anything like that. But if we start to fade into the threes, maybe that would be something to consider. But yeah, I mean, anyways, I just wanted to share that. And also, I don't know if you guys celebrate, but, Christmas is next week. And so I will have another video out on Friday on AMC. But I just wanted to wish you all a Merry Christmas, whether you celebrate or not. For me, I am not religious. I celebrate Christmas to be with family, to think about others, to be kind, to be giving. And so I just wanted to thank you all for hanging out. We are all in this together, retail, trying to navigate the markets. AMC has effectively been the gateway drug for me to stick around. And I just want you all to know I'm really grateful for you guys. And whatever you plan to do with AMC, your investments, whatever you plan to do, I support that, and I hope that you do what's best for you and your families. It's been really great to get to know you guys over the year in the comments. To find out, that families are growing. We've been in this so long that new members of the family are coming into it. So, I don't have any fancy beverages to cheers with, just some water here. But yeah, cheers to you guys. Cheers to the community. Cheers to retail getting an edge. I know this is a tough one. The fundamentals, unfortunately, are not as strong as GameStop because they have all of that cash. But, this is an investment. This is something that we believe in, and what better American pastime, especially around the holidays, than to go to the movie theaters, enjoy some popcorn with family, create some new memories, and with, strangers. I think that's one of the things that we, especially in this country, very divided. It's great to be going to the movie theaters and just enjoying the company, enjoying laughs, enjoying the stress, the fear, the heartbreak, in a place like this. So, anyways, I just wanted to say cheers to you guys. Merry Christmas. But, as always, those are just my thoughts. If you found them helpful, make sure you like the video, share your thoughts in the comments down below, and make sure you subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Again, take care, you guys, and Merry Christmas. Cheers.